Never, ever give up on yourself. I'm sitting inside Slingshot World headquarters. We got all the products here in the back. We have a whole nother warehouse full of products, and then we have a whole nother warehouse that's full of gym stuff. And we have a podcast room in here. We got a bunch of offices. We have a bunch of spots for people to work and everything, but none of this would exist and none of this would be possible if I gave up on myself. I've been in some tough spots. I wouldn't really call them dark times, because I very fortunately have never been depressed. I've never had issues with alcohol or cocaine or anything crazy like that. And luckily for me, I'm very fortunate. I had amazing parents. And you guys may have been following along for a while, and I'm sure you've heard the speech before. I'm sure you've heard me talk about how amazing my parents are. But something that I sometimes maybe forget or sometimes leave out is the fact that I grew up with two amazing brothers. My brother Mad Dog, like, I didn't want to be anyone more than I wanted to be like him. And my brother Chris was the same way. Mike was, he was very, and it's so hard still today to deal with his death. He died over 10 years ago, or maybe closer to 12 years ago. It's still very difficult to deal with his death to this day, because he was so full of life, and he was very aggressive, which I love that side of him, and also, in some ways hated that side of him. But, a lot of the stuff that I saw him do and witnessed him doing is he would tend to give up on himself. And it was the thing that really haunted his dreams, because more than anything, he wanted to be a professional wrestler. He wanted to be a WWE superstar. And he never got to that status because he was always in his own way. He was well-meaning, he worked hard, he did a lot of the basics, right? But he didn't do a lot of the basics for a consistent long enough period of time to be good enough, to be great enough, to be wrestling with The Undertaker, Bret Hart, and so on. And after seeing that firsthand and seeing him give up on himself, I kind of thought to myself, man, like, that's the guy that I always wanted to be when I was a kid. All I have to do is take Mad Dog's example of the way that he lived his life, and I can live and do a lot of the things that he did, but there's some stuff that I should really avoid, such as giving up on yourself. He wasn't a quitter. I want to reiterate, he was a hard worker. And my brother Chris as well. But my brother Chris gave up on himself too. Each person has their own tough things to go through. I may have been blessed that I wasn't born with knees that need to be operated on at a young age like my brother Chris. I may be blessed with the fact that I didn't need a double hip replacement like my brother Chris did. So maybe he had circumstances that they seemed insurmountable to him. And maybe Mike was the same way. Mike was bipolar. And I feel, again, I want to reiterate, because I'm not, I'm not Superman either. I didn't, come through the other side unscathed either. Life is tough. It really is. Life is very, very tough. And life is very sad. We can't control the way that we die. We can't always control who loves us, or who we fall in love with, or who falls in love with us. It's a giant rat race all the time. But you have to stay connected to stuff. That's the way, you hear people saying, never give up. And I just mentioned that myself, never give up, right? But how do we never give up? Does anybody really ever talk about that side of things? How do we ensure that we don't ever give up? Well, the way that I've done it, I'm not sure how it's going to play out for you, but this is advice from Mark Smelly Bell to you that I think would really be beneficial after being on this planet for 43 years and not really doing a whole lot of anything in career-wise until I was about 35. That's right around the time, or 33, sorry. That's right around the time I created the Slingshot. But when I think about how could you never give up, well, if I'm to put on the old thinking cap the way that you can avoid giving up, or the way that you can even think of giving up, because I've never even entertained the idea of giving up on any of the dreams I've had. Now, as a kid, I wanted to be a pro football player, and then later on, I wanted to be a pro wrestler. But these were like shifting of careers, where the writing was on the wall that it didn't make sense to do that any longer. And even if I had become a professional football player, you can only play football for so long before you move on and start doing something else. The issues, when I look back at some of those dreams, were that was like I was trying to chase a passion that really wasn't truly fitting me. It was like trying to put on clothes that don't fit. It just didn't really fit with me. I was hardworking when it came to football. I used to run, I used to lift, I used to do everything. Made myself fast, I made myself strong. You know, I did all the different things, but I didn't have the attributes to really get to that next level. And it just got to the point where kind of my time ran out, and that was it. I ended up playing some college football at a community college, Santa Monica City College, and I played football with Steve Smith, Hall of Famer, and Chad Ochocinco, which he might end up being a Hall of Famer as well. And I had some great experiences, but it was time to move on. I wasn't good enough to get to that next level, but I never gave up on the dream. The dream kind of said, hey, like, you ain't good enough for this. And you're going to have stuff like that too that happens. So you have to keep your eyes open. You have to be paying attention. And then when it came to professional wrestling just got really hot. And my brother, Mad Dog, was an inspiration to me, and I wanted to, I wanted to follow in his footsteps with whatever he did. He played football, I played football. He did wrestling, I did wrestling, right? And so it was more his dream than it was mine, and I didn't really realize that until I got deeper into it. Because as I started getting closer to the fire, as I started getting closer to getting like a WWE contract, I did wrestle in Louisville, Kentucky, where they had their developmental league for WWE superstars. But never progressed any further than that. And the reason was very simple, is I didn't want to do all the work necessary to get to that next level, because as I got more and more into it, I realized this is going to be something that's not suitable for me. It's not actually going to fit me. I just had a baby. I just had my son Jake. And I was like, it's time to move on. So there was another dream that I had, or an idea or concept in my head, that I was going to chase after this thing. And then once I realized that it was no longer worth me chasing, again, I didn't give up on it, I worked very hard for it. I don't view it as giving up. Then I shifted my efforts somewhere else. But this is an amazing thing, and I heard this recently from Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban said, don't even bother to follow your passion. He's like, I think following your passion is a bunch of BS. And what he followed it up with really made a lot of sense. He said, don't follow your passion. Follow your efforts. Follow your efforts. Where are you spending your time? Because odds are, where you're spending your time, you're probably pretty darn good at those things that you spend your time on. And then once you become really good at something, then it's impossible to quit, right? So if you can start to figure out life a little bit, if you can start to become good at life, and you can start to break things down and have some perspective on the way other people feel, have some compassion for how other people feel, have some understanding. Because look, a big part of life is figuring out, why the heck are people acting the way they're acting? Why'd I get this weird text message from this person? And then it hurts your feelings, or it bothers you, or it stirs something up. But then, put yourself in their shoes for a second. Maybe their view is completely different than yours. Maybe their understanding of how you operate, and maybe they didn't even intend to hurt you. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it, right? Maybe they didn't intend to hurt your feelings. And so life is a giant management of all these things. And why would I be talking about like your feelings, and why would I be talking about some of these things when we're talking about never giving up? Well, it's very simple, is because we're trying to take all the crap that happens in life, and we're trying to make sense of it. We're trying to put some logic to it. That's part of the advantage of being a human being, is that we have logic. I don't have to fly south for the winter. I'm not a zebra. I don't need to run in a certain pattern to get away from a lion. I can choose to do what I want being a human being. And we put rational thought into play. And you can start to really think, these things that are going on in my life, they're really hard and they're really challenging, but all it's going to do is help make me stronger in the long run. When somebody dies, that is another opportunity. It sucks, but there's literally nothing you can do about it. They're already dead. You can't dwell on it. All you can really do in those situations, in my opinion, is take the best characteristics of that person, have those things live on in yourself, and understand that you have a lot of life in front of you. That person no longer has that life in front of them any longer, but you still have a lot of life left to live. And as I've said before, you may as well put your best foot forward and work as hard as you possibly can. Pain, discomfort, sadness, depression, happiness, success, all these things are ahead, right? All these things are going to happen. Pain is going to happen. You're going to naturally just get older. You're going to naturally lose some eyesight. You're going to naturally lose some other senses. You're going to naturally get weaker as you get older. All these things are going to happen regardless of how you live your life. You could be the most well-meaning person in the world. You could help cancer patients. You could help burn victims. And you could still die a horrible and horrific death. You could still end up bedridden for 90 days and then suffer and be in tons of pain and on tons of painkillers, and then you go out with effing like pancreatic cancer or something wild like that. Like we don't have a way to figure out how we're going to exit this world. And so with your time here, you might as well spend it as wisely as possible. Simplify the things that are bothering you. Simplifying the things that are, because the things that are bothering you, that's the only reason why you're going to quit anything. If you're great at something, there's no reason to quit. There's no reason to give up because that's your thing. Oh, there's Mark, he's the football player. Or there's Brian, he's the soccer player. Or there's, Sophia, she's the artist, right? When you're good at something and you're great at something, that's your identity, and it makes you feel good. Oh, there's Carlos, he's the cameraman, right? It makes you feel good. I'm a filmmaker, I'm a writer, I'm a singer, I'm a dancer, I'm a whatever the heck it is that you are, right? And so when we're thinking about, never giving up, I can't encourage you guys enough to make sure that you stay on your path. Find a path, find things that you enjoy, follow your efforts. Your efforts are going to be the things that you're going to most likely already enjoy a lot. You already like those things. You already love those things. Continue to follow those things. Continue to work on those things. You know what they are. You're sitting there right now being like, oh man, why didn't I finish that painting that I did, 2 months ago? Or why didn't I, I wanted to do a podcast in 2018 and I still don't have one. I wanted to do more photography. I wanted to get out of the house more. I wanted to, somebody just told me the other day, this kind of stuff is really cool. In 2019, I realized a lot of times when I arrive places, I spend some time in my car because I'm like on my phone. Because a lot of times once I go into somewhere, I want to focus in on what everybody else is doing. But I actually kind of made an agreement with myself where I was like, you know what? I'm going to work on my phone only on the way out from only on the way at my house in my car for just a few seconds. I'll look at it then, and then I won't look at it until God knows when. I won't be able to get back to it. But a goal for me was I just wanted to pop in and out of the car quick. This is a small goal, but I'm like, I waste time here. This is a place where I can kind of pick up more points. This is a place where I can put a little bit more energy into it. I kind of sit in my car for 5 or 10 minutes, farting around on the phone, and it's not productive. It doesn't do me any good. I'm trying to get to like a destination, or I'm trying to, whatever it is I'm trying to do, right? It's going to slow me down. I was like, just pop out of the car a little bit quicker. Somebody the other day mentioned to me, actually, it was my mother-in-law, Sherry. Sherry has been widowed twice, a very unfortunate situation, but what a wonderful woman, and what a powerful statement this is when she said, people just think, oh, how horrible that is, you had 2 husbands die. She's like, I had 2 husbands that I lived with, for a very long time and had great relationships with. So that's a different perspective, a different way of looking at it. But what she mentioned to me the other day was, when somebody dies, you might have a tendency to kind of, cower in the corner a little bit, or when something really dramatic happens, or traumatic rather, when something like that happens, you might feel like, oh man, I need to like go into isolation and I need to not be around other people. And she recognized that, and so she said to herself, you know what? I need to consciously be around other people. So she said, somebody invites me to something and I'm going to it. Those are like the little things. Those are the little things in life that will help you survive. She understood how important that was to her, because maybe she would give up on life. And now look at her. She's fighting diabetes with the carnivore diet. She's kicking ass. She's lifting weights. She's walking with me. I mean, she's doing all kinds of stuff. And so in your life, you want to really figure out how, people are always talking about being happy. Life isn't so much about being happy. I think being happy is like a hard thing to figure out. Even my brother Mad Dog, he used to say, somebody would say, have a nice day. He's like, that asshole. He's like, that guy put so much pressure on me. He's like, how the hell am I supposed to have a nice day? He's like, now I got to figure out a way to salvage the day, you know? Life is more about like just avoiding things that upset you, and figuring out a way to work those things out in your head so they don't bother you. Because really things are just, they're just the way that you think they are. You know, your mind makes up, the decision on how bad that thing is. I mean, there are things in life that are bad. You know, killing somebody is bad. You know, rape is bad. There's things that are bad, and there's nothing, you can't really do anything about those certain things. I'm talking about more of your day-to-day stuff, though. The mean post on social media that somebody made about you, somebody teasing you in class, or somebody, somebody taking a giant dump on your dreams, which that happens often too. How many of you have grown up, by show of hands over here, how many of you have grown up in a household that's pretty negative towards your goals, pretty negative towards anything that you do? You're on this carnivore diet, you're following along, and people are like, why are you doing that? You know, your parents might even be that way. I don't even think they recognize that sometimes. But you have to figure out ways to overcome it. Okay, that's mom and dad. They grew up a different way. They have different beliefs. Maybe they have a specific religion that they really follow strictly, and they can't even, be on your diet or whatever. But it's not your job to make people understand. It's not your job to try to go around justifying why you're doing certain things, because you're doing them for yourself. And you're doing them because they make you feel good. So make sure that you follow those things with everything that you got. Follow your efforts, follow the things that you already enjoy, and continue to lean into those things. Another thing I hear people mention really often is, I'll say you got to work on your weakness. I think that can be effective in some ways. We should definitely be very conscious. For example, I'm going to yoga tonight. There you go. There's working on a weakness, right? Like, I'm not very flexible. So yeah, it is good to explore some of those things. But man, if you want to make money in this lifetime and you want to have a kick-ass time in this life and in this world, the best thing that you can do is double and triple down on your strengths, because that's what you're going to be known for. If you're just kind of middle ground at everything, no one's going to know your name. No one's going to know who you are. Not that that's everything to be known by other people, but it is nice. It does feel good to get recognition, and it does feel good to be able to end up making your dreams come true, as I have, sitting inside Slingshot World Headquarters. I feel like I'm to the point now, and this is just some flat out bragging, I'm to the point now where I can't really think of other things to do. I don't feel like there's nothing left to do. I always feel like every day brings a new challenge, and I feel every day is really fun. But in terms of like money, like, I'm set. Like, I ain't got to worry about that at all. I still do. I still come in here and I still plug away, because the company's growing, and we have new goals and we have new things to go after. But in terms of like, when somebody talks about the American dream, or somebody, it would be what has happened to me. It would be this. This is the American dream. I sold stuff out of our garage years ago, and then it turned into this. It turned into having a 20,000 square foot place that I don't even know how much it costs. You guys have seen the cars, you've seen the house, you've seen all the different things that I have. And life isn't about really what you have. It's not, that's definitely not a huge determining factor. However, a lot of these things are highly valued within our society, and those things can make you feel good. It makes you feel good to drive a kick-ass car. You drive a kick-ass car and someone else pulls up next to you and like honk your horn because your truck is badass or something. It's kind of a neat thing. And maybe somebody thinks it's like egotistical or whatever, but I'm just sharing my experiences with you guys. This is just how I feel. I feel awesome. It feels really good. I feel so proud of the work that my wife and I have put into this, the work of my family, the sacrifices too. You know, walking around with nearly 500,000 people in your pocket is a crazy responsibility. It really is. It's really pretty wild. And it's damaging. It's damaging to the whole family as well as it is positive. It's obviously more positive than it is negative. But I'm not going to give up on, social media because some people made, bad comments about me, or they said something about my kids or said something crazy. I'm never going to give up on any of these things because I know what I want out of life, and I'm going to continue to work towards it. I'll finish on this note. Remember, in your efforts to be successful, it doesn't have to be defined by money. It doesn't have to be defined by cars. It doesn't have to be defined by anything fancy. And it certainly doesn't need to be complicated. Remember what I said. You got to simplify things. I think Henry Ford is the one that said, there's no job that's too hard when it's broken down into its smallest pieces. And he's created the assembly line, right? When you start to kind of break down all the different things that you're supposed to do and you simplify them, it gives you a lot less anxiety. It's a lot easier to be attached to those things. So I strongly urge you guys, stay with it, stick with it no matter what. Work as hard as you can. It's okay to put yourself down, but don't kick a downed opponent. So if you do mess up and you do give up on something, it's okay to say, hey, you know what, Mark? You are a piece of shit. You said you were going to do this and you didn't follow through with it. And it's okay to analyze and say, I don't think I followed through on some of these things because of A, B, and C. But don't go any further than that. Just keep it right there and say, you know what? I'm going to reset and I'm going to start doing a better job next time. Never give up. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you all later.